What's up guys, Spiritual Lemonade back with another video. We got a new kind of style video today, and I'm hopefully going to try and do at least one video every week going over this, and I'll most likely only be covering EPs and albums in these videos. And as you guys know, my goal for this year was to react to as many albums as I can and stay away from the singles, but due to some circumstances of like not having as much time for the foreseeable future doing like just all album reactions, I'm gonna have to shift and do partially singles and still do a few album reactions a week. But then there's also just like a ton of albums coming out and EPs, and I really want to make sure that I'm covering them and that you guys know what exactly I'm listening to every week, because I do listen to a ton of music and most of it is Christian rap. I just wanted to kind of make these videos, tell you guys what I've been listening to, and also on this music board app I can rate the album, so you guys will see my ratings, my honest ratings for all of these projects that I'm listening to, whether I react to them or not. So I'm pretty excited for this. This video will be from April 25th through this week, so everything that dropped on April 25th, and then next week will be next, it'll just be week by week. So we're going to start off with Ayo Millie. If you are watching this video right now, I believe that I have an EP review out for this. Not a reaction, but a review. So if you want to go watch that, you can. But it was a really solid EP. It was like only a few songs. I'm pretty sure like maybe 4 songs. Or five songs actually. And I gave that a 3.5. That was pretty good. Next up, we got Process of Elimination by Abel. This was also an EP of 5 tracks. It was also a very short EP, but kind of just a few songs that he's kind of dropped already, and then a couple new ones, if I remember correctly. I gave it a 3 out of 5 just because I want more from Abel. And then Hear Me Out, that was Caleb Cruz. It's not really a Christian album or EP. Next up, we got Glory to God by Mana Music. Not really much standout stuff on this one. It was an EP, 4 songs. I wish on this that it would say what the song titles were, just so I could kind of remember, but nothing really stood out to me on this one, so I just gave it a 2.5. It's not bad, it's not great though. Let's see, that was the end of that one, so I'm gonna go to the next page. Dopamine and Jesus by Luke Bauer. This was, I think, his debut album. He's dropped like a short project that I reacted to, I think last year. Someone had requested this, and I really did enjoy this album. This is on vinyl, so I'm hopefully going to be getting the vinyl at some point this year. I'm not sure when. I gave this a solid 3 out of 5. It was 10 tracks, and the only reason it couldn't get like a 3.5 or 4 out of 5 is there were several songs where it didn't necessarily fall flat in a terrible way, but throughout, it's like a folk music. This is folk, like Christian folk music. And there just wasn't a lot of like, that kind of crowd or full vocal. The vocals in most of the songs just felt a little thin, and there were no like background melodies to go with it, which really makes folk music sound really good. And I just wanted that little extra like touch of something in this album. There were a few songs towards the end that did actually incorporate some of those like wider vocals, more like crowd kind of vocals, if that makes sense. But yeah, it was a solid project. Next up, we have possibly the album of the year. Right now, this is up there for my album of the year. Trust Fall by Steven Stanley. I have never heard of this guy before, but man, this actually was an incredible project. This is the album that I listened to this week where I was like, I want to start making videos like this, because I knew I wasn't going to react to this, but it needed to be talked about. This, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Almost a 5-star album. I just couldn't give it a 5. But this was 12 tracks, and I can't even describe really what genre it is. It's like a mix of like theatrical rock, and not, when I say theatrical, I am not a fan of theatrical music, but this was like a tasteful amount of theatrical kind of music, very emotion, like raw emotions going into this. He played around a lot with the vocals. There were like whenever he goes into his falsetto voice from his like regular chest voice, I don't know what he did to the vocal, but it just kind of got like drier, and it really just kind of made you feel that raw emotion when he went into his falsetto throughout this. There, almost every song was at least a 4 out of 5. So yeah, I was excited to listen to this. Usually, like albums, this was just one random one I found on some random Christian music website that I look at for all the new like broad CCM music and all that, because I don't really keep up with that. Mostly what I do is CHH. But I saw this one, I added it to the playlist because it looked like an original album, not just like a live worship album. And this one really blew me away. I am very excited to see more from this guy and go back to listen to other stuff from his discography. I did read that it was a little different than some of his other stuff. But yeah, Trust Fall by Stephen Stanley. I highly recommend you guys go listen to this one. Next up, we got Sunday Notes 2 by LJ the Messenger. This is a very early Paul Russell-esque kind of vibe. I haven't listened to too much by LJ the Messenger. I've seen him a lot on features, but I can't say that I've really listened to a lot of his personal discography. So maybe there's a Sunday Notes 1 that I'll have to go back and listen to. But yeah, this was just kind of like a summery indie pop rap kind of vibe. It was really cool. Very very slick album. Yeah, I guess it's considered an album, but it's only 7 tracks. I gave this a solid 3.5 out of 5. It wasn't anything like groundbreaking creatively, like it wasn't anything super new, but it captured a really nice vibe, and the production, the mix, and all that was solid. So I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Next up, we got The Journey to The Climb by Connect, I think is how you pronounce it. I've never heard of this guy before. There were a few features that I did recognize on this album when I was listening to it. I can't say that I remember all the features because the songs aren't listed on here. But yeah, I gave it a 2.5. It was, I know JT Pix posted a video of him talking kind of about this. You can go watch it on your own. It's one of his more recent videos. But he kind of talked about how there's a lot of really good Christian rap, but it just kind of lacks, like, creativity. And there was technically nothing really wrong with this album. There were good, like, lyrics. It was just kind of the delivery. And it just sounded like I heard this already, like, a million times. Like, just a lot of recycled bars. And pretty much recycled messages as well. Especially with Christian music, it can get a little bit like stuff gets recycled message wise, which is why I really appreciate this stuff that is very fresh and very new. So I had to give this a 2.5 out of 5 just because there really wasn't much there creatively. Definitely go listen to it if you're looking for a more old school like kind of sound. I mean, the mix was a little more new school. It was just like the beats and stuff were a little bit old school and outdated. Holy Block Party, I did a reaction to this one. You guys probably saw this reaction by now. If not, I have one coming out this week. I gave this a 2.5 out of 5. Mostly just because I have heard a lot of the sounds on this before, and also I think the big thing, there was a lot of like really cool bars in this one, a lot of energy. This is very West Coast rap right here, but you can even kind of listen to this in my reaction to it. The mix on each song, like song by song, is very different. You have some songs where the music is very thin, very quiet, and then the next song is like a lot of crowd vocals and like just way louder than the other song. So I think I would just like just a more consistent kind of mix on an album like this, which that's just maybe a personal issue with me, or not issue, but just like me personally, I'd rather have a more consistent mix throughout the album. Otherwise, it would have been like a 3 or 3.5 out of 5. Next up, we have, let's see, Handsome by Curtis Hoppy. This one dropped a couple weeks ago, actually. I gave that a 2.5 out of 5. I feel like he's dropped better music in the past. Next up, we got Imposter by Dela Cruz. This was an album that I've been looking forward to for a while. This encaptured a lot of very kind of space effect sounds and lasers and all that going on throughout this project. And I kind of talked about this in my reaction. I wish that it was a longer album, mainly because it was promoted so heavily and all that. And then it turns out to be 7 tracks, and every song is like only a minute and a half long. So it was just like, there was a lot of good messages and solid themes throughout this project. It just kind of lacked, like, I guess, length. Dela Cruz did go crazy on this. There are definitely songs that I'm listening to more than just once beyond my reactions. So there definitely is stuff on this that I really did enjoy. I just would rather, if it was going to be like promoted as an album and all that, I'd rather it either have more songs if they're only going to be a minute and a half long, or longer songs and only be 7 tracks. But nothing to complain about on that one. Next up, we got 1350 Live by Upper Room. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5. Normally on an album this long, it's got 19 tracks, and it was over 2 hours. It was like 2 hours, 15 minutes long. Man, it got a little tiring where every song was like a little too long. So we have the juxtaposition of Dela Cruz having like 1.5 minute long songs to now Upper Room with like 10 plus minute songs, which sometimes works really well. There were several songs on here that I am probably going to add to my worship playlist, but there are some other songs that have been released already and could have probably just been left off this album. But then again, it is a live album, and I've kind of gone back and forth how I review worship music. So a lot of the worship stuff is more just specifically my taste, because worship music isn't going to be like terribly mixed usually. It would just be more of like my pickiness. And so this is just like my personal opinion on worship music. But it was a really good album. There were some things here and there that I didn't really agree with, such as like the random speaking in tongues and stuff. I can get into that in a different video if you guys are really worried about it. But yeah, that's the only thing with that. That was a 3.5 out of 5, which is pretty high for a worship album, I'm not gonna lie. Usually it's like 2.5 to 3 stars for that. Let's see, I think that might be the last album, other than I did go back and listen to Child of God on vinyl. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. But that's pretty much it for the week for EPs and albums that dropped in Christian music. This is a very broad video. It can be anything. It can be electronic. It can be rock. It can be literally anything. Hip-hop, pop, indie, like folk music. I'm going on all genres of Christian music, covering them in one video at the end of every week. I'm hoping to do this every week, especially so that you guys know, even outside of my reactions, what I'm listening to. I mean, you can see like other stuff that I've been listening to as well, going back and revisiting Taylor Swift a little bit this week, Maroon 5. But these videos will be specifically just for Christian music. I hope that you guys are listening to some of this stuff. If I had to pick one album or EP for you guys to go listen to, it would 100% be Trust Fall by Stephen Stanley. This is the best album I've listened to in several weeks in Christian music. It's definitely up there for one of my albums of the year. If you want to keep up with my music board and everything, the link will be in the description. You can go on here as well and look at my lists. I only have 2 lists. One is for all of the contenders for EP of the year for this year, and for album of the year for this year. So I'm going to be doing a list of my top 50 EPs and albums, and there might be more by the end of the year in each list, but I'm going to narrow it down when I make my video at the end of the year to only 50. So if you're interested and want to keep up with all that, the link is in the description, as I said before. If you want to follow me on Music Board, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys go listen to some of this really incredible music. I'm here to support Christian music in all genres. Thank you guys again for watching. Go be fruitful. Let's go.